Imagine for a second that everything you were stressing about, literally right now, the promotion you're chasing at work, the notifications piling up on your phone, that, vague anxiety about the economy or the election.
Yeah.
Imagine if all of that, all the energy you pour into it, was described quite literally as shepherding the wind.
It's such a haunting image, isn't it?
We're-
It's just chasing breath. You
Right.
run after it, you try to corral it, you try to own it.
Yeah.
But the moment you open your hands, there's just nothing there. It's exhaled, scattered, and gone.
And that isn't just a poetic opener to get your attention. That is the central, uncomfortable premise of the text we're deep diving into today. It's called The Undivided Heart, Beyond the Wind of Vanity. And I have to say, reading through this, well, this is not a light beach read. It feels less like a self-help book and more like a philosophical intervention.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The intervention is exactly what it feels like. The text draws heavily on the figure of Qoheleth. You might know him as the voice behind the book of Ecclesiastes.
Right.
But what makes this source so unique is that it isn't just doing a history lesson. It isn't analyzing an old scroll. It's weaponizing that ancient wisdom to critique the modern world.
How so?
It looks at our information overload, our failing institutions, our burnout, and it asks this devastating question. When everything is weighed on the scale, what actually endures?
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack this text's definition of vanity. And spoiler, it's not about looking in the mirror too much.
Not at all.
We'll look at its critique of society, which introduces this fascinating, slightly terrifying concept of the Babylon pattern. And then finally, we'll explore the proposed solution, the undivided heart.
And I think we should set the stage here immediately. This text, it does not promise that wisdom will make you happy. In fact, it uses a metaphor that it really stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, I think I know which one you mean.
It describes wisdom not as a gift that brings you bliss, but as surgery.
Yeah, that stuck with me too. We usually sell wisdom as this warm, fuzzy light, It's something that solves your problems and makes you feel zen.
Right.
But this text says, no, it's surgery. It's going to cut something out and it's probably going to hurt. So, okay, let's get the scalpel out. The text starts by defining the problem, vanity. But it uses a very specific word, doesn't it?
It does. It leans right into the Hebrew concept of hevel.
Hazel.
Yeah. We often translate vanity in English as pride or arrogance, thinking you're better than everyone else. But hevel literally means vapor or smoke or breath. So when the text says all is vanity, it isn't saying everything is arrogant. It's saying everything is fleeting. It's smoke. You can see it. You can almost touch it, but it has no substance. You can't build on it.
Okay, so let's apply that to the daily grind. The text talks about a cycle. Day follows day, labor follows labor. We get up, we work, we go to bed, do it again.
Right.
And the text argues that in this cycle, nothing actually changes except, and this is the quote, the shape of our vanity.
Exactly. Think about it. 3,000 years ago, vanity might have looked like building a literal tower of stone to reach the heavens, a monument to your name.
Sure.
Today, maybe it looks like curating a perfect digital identity or optimizing your portfolio to feel secure or ensuring your legacy through a viral tweet. The shape has changed. It's digital now, not stone, but the underlying emptiness.
The attempt to grab the wind and say, this is mine,
That remains exactly the same.
that is a heavy realization. It makes all our progress feel a bit cynical. The text mentions Qoheleth setting his heart to search out wisdom, but it notes this task wasn't given to humanity to make us feel special.
No, quite the opposite. The text says this search was given to humble them.
To humble this.
It's designed to break the illusion of mastery. That is the core trap the text identifies. The illusion that we're in control. We think if we just work harder, hack our productivity, gather enough data, we can master the outcome, we can beat the system.
But the text calls that shepherding the wind. And speaking of gathering data, this is where the text gets uncomfortably relevant too right now. It goes hard on the difference between information and wisdom.
Oh, it does.
I think I highlighted this whole section because it felt like it was written about my social media feed. It says, information now multiplies faster than wind.
Yet we still speak emptiness. That's the rest of the line. It's a devastating look at the information age. The text acknowledges that our words travel farther than ever before.
I mean, you can post something and it's in Tokyo in a second.
Right. But the argument is that our wisdom has not. We've expanded the reach of our voice, but not the depth of our understanding.
It feels like we're drowning in noise,
Yeah.
but the text, It takes a darker turn there. It doesn't just say we're loud and dumb.
Yeah.
It says, what profit is there under the sun if all our knowledge is used to devour one another?
That's the concept of the devouring. It's the idea that without a moral or spiritual center, without actual wisdom knowledge, it just becomes a weapon.
And we see that every day.
We do. We have access to the sum total of human knowledge in our pockets, and what do we do with it? We use it to win arguments in comment sections. We use it to find the one fact that destroys someone else's reputation.
We weaponize the data to tear each other down.
Exactly. And the tragedy, according to this source, isn't that wisdom is missing. It's not hidden on some mountaintop where you need a secret map.
No.
The text uses this personification of wisdom crying aloud in the streets.
Yeah.
She's public. She's accessible. She's standing right there in the middle of all the chaos.
So why don't we hear her? If she's yelling in the street, why are we deaf to it?
Because, as the text says, vanity is louder and easier to love.
Easier to love. Oof, that hits home. It is easier to love the distraction. It's easier to doom scroll than to sit in silence and think about your life.
Right. It's easier to be entertained than to be corrected. The noise numbs us. Wisdom. Wisdom requires us to feel things we might not want to feel. It asks us to confront the hevel, the vapor. And most of us would rather just keep chasing the wind because it keeps us busy.
Okay, so we have this individual problem. We are chasing wind, mistaking information for wisdom, distracting ourselves to death. But the text zooms out. It says this isn't just a you problem, it's a societal problem.
A structural problem.
And this is where it introduces Babylon. Now, for anyone thinking about ancient history, we aren't just talking about the city in Iraq, right?
No, and this is a crucial distinction the text makes. It explicitly states that Babylon is not merely a place. It is a pattern.
A pattern.
It's a recurring cycle of civilization. It's what happens when a society builds itself entirely on greed, vanity, and the accumulation of power. And the text says this pattern stands in the midst of us still.
So Wall Street could be Babylon, Silicon Valley could be Babylon.
Anywhere where a profit is prioritized over people, or where the image of success is valued more than the truth of things, that is the Babylon pattern reemerging.
Wow.
The text talks about the corruption of justice within this pattern. It describes council chambers falling silent, bowing to greed, where decisions are made based on bribes instead of what's right.
There was one line in this section that really rattled me. It said, "Rich men promise security and deliver chains."
It's a powerful paradox. Think about how much freedom we willingly give up in exchange for the promise of safety or stability.
We trust the system, the corporation.
The rich men to keep the lights on and the supply chain moving. But the text argues this exchange inevitably leads to bondage. We become dependent on the very things that are devouring us.
We become slaves to the economy we built to serve us.
That's it. And the scary part is we usually think the solution is just better management.
Right. If we just vote for the right person or get a better CEO or pass a new law, we can fix Babylon. We can optimize it.
But the source just shuts that down completely. It says what is crooked cannot be straightened by human hands. It argues that systems and numbers cannot account for what's lacking in the human spirit. You can't build a bureaucracy that fixes a broken soul.
That feels like a direct shot at our obsession with technocracy. The idea that we can engineer our way out of moral problems. So, okay. If systems fail and information is just wind, surely the answer is wisdom.
You would hope so.
If we stop ignoring wisdom in the streets, does that fix everything? Do we get to live happily ever after?
Well, this is where the text pulls the rug out from under us. This is what we were calling the paradox of wisdom.
Yeah, this part actually made me angry for a second. I wanted the happy ending.
I can see why. It's very counterintuitive.
Well, the source reminds us of Qoheleth's own confession. He got more wisdom than anyone before him. He saw it all, he understood the patterns, and did it make him happy?
No.
No. The text says it exposed him.
It stripped away illusions and left him face to face with sorrow. That is not the marketing slogan for wisdom we are used to hearing.
Not at all.
But the text argues that it's the honest one. It says, "In much wisdom is much grief."
In much wisdom is much grief. Unpack that for us. Why does getting wiser make you sadder?
Because when you truly see the world, when you see the Babylon pattern clearly, when you see the fleeting nature of Hevel, when you see how people devour one another, it hurts.
You lose the luxury of ignorance.
Exactly. You can't unsee the brokenness. You can't pretend the emperor is wearing clothes anymore.
So ignorance is bliss and wisdom is sorrow.
Not exactly sorrow. And this brings us back to that metaphor we started with, wisdom as surgery.
Right.
The text says, this suffering is not death. It is surgery. It removes what was killing you quietly.
I love that. Even though it sounds painful, it implies that the vanity, the illusions we live in, is actually a sickness.
A tumor.
A tumor. It's killing us quietly. And wisdom is the scalpel. It hurts to cut it out, but it's the only way to get well.
And the text contrasts this surgery with how we currently raise our children. This was a really biting critique.
It was.
It says we teach children to despise wisdom and embrace death without knowing its name.
That is a massive accusation to throw at modern parenting and education.
It is. But think about it. We often protect children and ourselves from any discomfort, any difficult truth, any negative vibes.
We shield them from the surgery.
We do. We tell them they can be anything, have anything, master anything. But the text says the result of avoiding this pain isn't happiness. It's humiliation.
Humiliation, that's a strong word.
Yes, rather than humility. When we avoid the surgery of wisdom because we want to avoid the pain, we end up in a state of constant reactivity. We become fragile.
So we end up feeding on wind.
And we're constantly disappointed because the world isn't giving us what we think we're owed. We are humiliated by reality because we refuse to be humbled by wisdom.
Okay, so we are at a crossroads. We can keep shepherding the wind, living in the Babylon pattern, protecting our illusions, or we can undergo the surgery. We can let wisdom cut the vanity out. If we choose the surgery, what is left? The text pivots here to the solution.
The solution is the undivided heart. The text says that once you accept that everything else is vanity, pleasure, status, even just accumulating knowledge, the question shifts. It stops being, how do I succeed? And it becomes, how does one truly know him?
Now, we need to be very careful with definitions here because the text is very specific. When it says him, it's not talking about religion in the way we usually think about it, is it?
No, and it's very explicit about that. It says this is not about the God inherited from tradition or the image shaped by religion.
Not the cultural box we put God in.
Exactly. It says, but him as he is.
Him as he is. That sounds intimidating. It's like moving from reading a biography about someone to suddenly standing in the room with them.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a move from secondhand knowledge to direct encounter, and that leads to the prayer the text suggests. It describes it as simple and terrifying.
What is it?
Consume my vanity. Show me what life is actually for.
Consume my vanity. That is a brave thing to ask. You are basically asking for your life to be turned upside down. You're asking for the surgery.
You are. You are asking to have the wind taken away so you can see what's actually solid. The text connects this whole search to covenant language. It quotes the prophets, "You shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart."
And that all your heart part is the kicker. That's the undivided part.
That's it. The text uses the metaphor of exile. It says our hearts are currently in exile. They're scattered.
Scattered how?
We're loyal to 1,000 different things. Comfort, reputation, money, politics, entertainment. We're fragmented. To search with the whole heart is to gather those scattered loyalties back to the place of origin.
I like that image. Our hearts being deported to the land of distraction. And the search is the way home. But how do we actually do that? Is this just about believing the right things?
No, the text is very clear on this.
Yeah.
This is active pursuit, not passive belief.
Okay.
It finds faith not as agreeing with a list of doctrines, but as sincerity without performance.
Sincerity without performance. That hits hard in the social media age again. Everything we do feels like a performance. We perform success, happiness, even morality.
But this is about what happens when the audience is gone. It's about integrity in the dark. And it comes with a cost.
Of course it does.
The text mentions surrender that leads to obedience, even when obedience costs. It's easy to be spiritual when it's convenient or when it fits your personal brand. But an undivided heart stays the course when it's difficult, when it loses you money or costs you status.
But surely there's a payoff. If I'm going through the surgery and paying the cost, what do I get?
There's a profound payoff. The text describes an inverse relationship. The more wisdom you gain, the more vanity loses its grip.
So the things that used to keep you up at night, the fear of missing out, the need for approval, the stress of the grind, they stop mattering as much.
They lose their power over you. You stop shepherding the wind because you realize it's just wind. You become free. And what I find fascinating is where this leads. You might think this internal work would make you a hermit.
Yeah, that's the stereotype, the guru on the mountain who doesn't care about the world anymore.
But the text rejects that entirely. It argues that the depth of this internal search becomes holiness within you, which then manifests as righteousness upon the earth.
So by fixing the inside, you actually become more effective on the outside.
Yes. It says it does not retreat from the world. Because you're no longer driven by greed or vanity, because you've broken the Babylon pattern in your own heart, you can actually bring righteousness and justice and clarity into the world.
You become a counterforce to the wind.
You become the most useful person in the room because you are the only one not trying to devour everyone else.
That is a really powerful call to action. It's not just about finding yourself. It's about becoming someone who can actually stand firm when everything else is collapsing.
And the text ends with this ultimate comparison. It lists things that are good food, wine, marriage, children. It acknowledges them as gifts. It's not nihilism. It doesn't say hate the world.
But there's always a but.
But it asks, what happens when the winds pass and even these fade? Because they do. Youth fades. Eras end. Kids grow up. Careers end. Even civilizations fall.
And the answer it gives is, only the search remains.
That is the anchor. Everything else is variable. The search for the divine as he is the constant. That is the only thing that isn't wind.
So let's just recap this journey because we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the wind, the futility of chasing information and mastery, the hevel. We looked at the Babylon pattern of society that crumbles under its own greed. We talked about wisdom as surgery, painful but necessary to remove the sickness of vanity.
And we landed on the undivided heart. The active, costly, sincere pursuit of presence over performance.
Whoa.
The gathering of our scattered loyalties back to the source.
The text mentions one last thing that I think we have to mention. It says there is an appointed time to search out the seed in the heart.
Right.
It implies this isn't something you can just put on the calendar for next year.
No. It implies an urgency. It suggests that this desire to seek, this pull you might be feeling right now towards something real, that is a destiny planted in you. But it's not automatic. You have to choose to water it.
You have to choose the surgery.
Exactly.
Which leaves us with the final provocative thought from the source material. It asks a question about that appointed time. It just asks, is it now?
It forces you to look at your current life, the stress, the chasing, the noise, the phone in your hand, and ask, is this the moment I stop shepherding the wind? Am I ready to risk my vanity to find presence?
That's the question we're going to leave you with today. Are you ready for the surgery?
It's a question only an undivided heart can answer.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.